ये मेरा वीडियो माइक माइक किसके करना है?
अभी आप उनका लाइव चलने वाले हैं?
नहीं, ऐसे लगाया, देख रहा हूँ कैसा चल रहा है।
तो भाई आपका लाइव चलता है
बाहर है फॉर्म है इंडिया में। हाँ
अरे पंजोरी तीनों मंजस में
Hare Krishna. So it is our pleasure and privilege. So it was a pleasant surprise for all of us when Prabhuji called early in the morning today that he wanted to give us his association. We are really in the clouds because Prabhuji's schedule is so busy and so hectic that we don't even get this free for us even 1 year in advance. Because most of the times he's traveling either in Australia or in US or in Europe, all over India. And yes, it's a Lord's always mercy. I remember last week when we were discussing the one devotee asked Prabhu, yes, some devotee, they wanted to know more about what we have been discussing. And we said that yes, whatever we have been sharing is from our seniors. And I told him, please refer gitadaily.com. You remember? And it's a Lord's arrangement because of your sincere desire and prayer. That the author of gitadaily.com, whatever we have been sharing, just a minuscule of what Prabhuji has been sharing over the decades. Prabhuji really started a magazine called Spiritual Scientist. And that really has been inspirational for so many youth of India. His articles are getting published in most of the renowned newspapers like Times of India and Hindustan Times and so on. And Prabhuji is really known for writing sorts of articles. This is gitadaily.com, you will find more than 2,000 articles. He has been writing an article every day on each of verse of the Bhagavad Gita. And each of the verse, we get so many different perspectives that how do we really understand this slokas and really apply it to our life. Prabhuji really says that yes, some people are wise and some are otherwise. And this Bhagavad Gita really transforms the people to make from otherwise to wise. Right? Yes, Prabhuji has been really writing and inspiring all over the world. From academic perspective, Prabhuji has graduated from COEP, one of the oldest engineering college in India. and then he scored 2350 out of 2400 in GRE. He had received scholars say go for MS in most of the US universities. But then he said that yes, studying of Bhagavad Gita and preserving it, promoting it, is more important than anything else. And so now for more than 2.5 decades, I would say, he has been really focusing only on sharing this Bhagavad Gita and going deeper into this Bhagavad Gita. And so if we continue, definitely even one class is not enough. But we really like all of you to realize that what is our fortune to have with us today, Prabhuji, and he'll be speaking on very pertinent topic on the mind. Yes, everybody is really suffering in some or other way, on this mental anxiety, psychological disorder, depression, in so many ways. Sometimes you might not realize, but this is a really great concern all over, and it's really including us. Sometimes you realize, sometimes you don't, but it is there. And Prabhuji will take us, let us know how we can really manage the mind, how we can deal our mind. It's not to control others' mind, but how do you really control mind? How we can make our mind as a friend. So once again, let's welcome Prabhuji by loudly chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
चक्षुरुन्मिलितं तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः नमः विष्णुपदाय विष्णुकृष्णाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिने नामे नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यवेशितारिणी वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्णा। Grateful to be here with all of you today. And I'll speak today based on this particular verse from Bhagavad Gita 6:35. Does anyone know what the topic we are discussing? Mind management. So before I go into this verse 6:35, I would like to ask, first of all, I'm grateful to be here. Thank you for that. Welcome. And it's wonderful to be a beautiful venue over here. If I'm sleeping, I can see two images of me sleeping. So, actually, it's about a month ago I was in UK and I spoke in a Bush bank, and somehow they had chosen exactly the same topic. So I was quite surprised how we chose that topic. Guided missiles, misguided you. That's how our mind works against us at times. So now I want to talk about mind management. So I'd like to ask you, what does this word mean to you? If you hear the word mind management, so what does it mean? Maybe you can say, what do you think? Okay, sorry. What do you think is the mind? Why do you need to manage it? So when you hear the term mind management, what thoughts come in your mind? Sorry? Yeah. Okay. So channeling thoughts. Channeling is like water is goes through a channel and goes in a particular direction. So channeling thoughts in a direction. Okay. I heard another answer, controlling the mind. Yeah, that's also in one sense. You don't control it to channel it in a particular. Okay. So let me speak this alone. What is the mind? That's one question. You could answer that. Or what is mind management? Or what is the need for mind management? Any of these, I would like to understand so that we start off at more or less the same level. So any of these questions, what is the mind? What does mind management need? Why is mind management necessary? Yes, please.
Hare Krishna. As I said, sisters, we require mind management because our intellect tells us to choose a particular path that seems to be right. But then mind sometimes say, hey, you don't have to go there. There are other things to explore as well. So we need to align ourselves, our mind aligned with our intellect.
So there's an inner conflict within us between, we can say, what is beneficial versus what feels desirable. This is what I would like to do, this is what I know I should do. So we can ascribe that this is all happening in the mind or because of the mind. So we want to manage the inner war. Thank you. Yes,
Hare Krishna.
Where is there?
Here, please. See, you're right.
Okay, yeah.
So,
This one.
mind to me means anxiety about the future and worrying about the past.
Okay, so mind is, that's a very, so mind is what mind does, you can say. So what does the mind do? It has anxiety about the past.
Anxiety about the future,
Okay.
worrying about the past.
What the difference? What the difference?
It means we would have undergone some situation, so we'll be feeling bad about it, but we don't know how the future is. We are also contemplating on that.
Okay, so we could say broadly, distraction from the present. So the mind brings about distraction, goes us to the past, can go to with past towards the past with anger also, with frustration also. But it just goes off to the past, or sometimes it just goes off to the future. Yes. So mind, there's something inside us which distracts us. Say, if this talk goes on for a little long, then while we are doing the talk, our mind goes for a walk. And then if there's some humor, the mind comes running back. Yeah, I also want to laugh. What is it? What is the humor? Okay. Yes, please. Bridge. Okay, the mind is like a bridge between soul and body. Yes, good point. So at a functional level.
Pushkar to কত লাগবে?
Yes.
তো এখন এটা সব করে তিনটা ক্যান্সেল।
Okay. So we could say that it is computational power. I'll talk a little bit later whether it is biological, but it's based on memories. Yes, correct. Okay, so mind is what brings about fear about the future. Yes.
Mind is the head of our organs, and to control our other organs, mind will be helping. If mind is not working properly, then other organs are not working properly.
Yeah.
Mind management is important.
The center of the senses, the sensory organs. So, if some thoughts are going on in somebody's mind, the inside they're going on, and suddenly this person is such a fool. And then, did I really see that aloud? I should have said that. So what happens? That if our mind is not working properly, then what comes out of the senses or what goes inside the senses, both can be undisturbed. When I speak things I don't want, I shouldn't be speaking, I may eat things which I shouldn't be eating. Somebody may have diabetes, but he will swallow food which has a lot of sugar in it. So basically, it disrupts us. Thank you, exactly. If you consider the palm as like the center of the 5 fingers, so the 5 senses, the mind is at the center. Good point. Anything else? Sorry?
Mind is notion of thoughts and then always turmoil in between the thoughts. down the turmoil of the thoughts. That is referred to management.
The mind is an ocean of turbulent thoughts. And we need to calm it down. I say.
Mind is like an unlimited, it's like a universe, right? So we need to manage it to focus on whatever we want.
Okay, so the mind, it wanders everywhere. So we want to convert its wandering into a focused journey. And otherwise the mind just goes everywhere. True. Any one last point? This is very well summarized. Various facets of the mind. Okay. Thank you. So, the three questions that I raised, we'll try to address them today. That first of all, what is the mind? Then why is the mind so difficult to manage? And then how can we make it more manageable? The three parts I'll discuss today. So the Bhagavad Gita gives us a broad principle. Let's recite this verse. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Samshayam Mahabaho Mano Durnigraham Chalam Abhyasena tu Kaunteya Vairagena cha Gruhyate. Krishna says over here that the mind is very difficult to run. Asamshayam. Arjuna, there is no doubt, Mahabahu, Arjuna is very powerful. Although you are powerful, Mahabahu, Mano Durnigraham Chalam. Nigraha is disciplining, controlling. Durnigraha, it is uncontrollable. Chalam, it is restless. So achala is steady. Chanchala is restless. So chalam is chanchala, short for that. Durnigraham chalam. But then he says it's possible by two things: abhyasa and vairagya. So what do these two terms mean? We'll discuss this today. Now, let's try to understand what is the mind. So now different people have different ideas of what the mind is. And we will focus on what the Bhagavad Gita tells us about the mind. We'll try to see how the Gita offers us a model of our inner world that can help us to make sense of our lived experience. So the Gita explains that our existence is three-level. We have a spiritual side, that is the soul. We have a psychological side, that is the mind. And then we have a physical side, that is the body. And at present, our existence is a combination of these three things. So this is the self. We have these three aspects to our being. So this is something like if you have a computer system in which there is the hardware, the software, and the user. The body is like the hardware, the mind is like the software, and the soul is like the user. Now, inputs come in from the senses. They come in and they go to the mind. And from the mind, they are offered to the soul for perception, for evaluation, for response. So normally for us to function, we could say that there are these various knowledge acquiring senses. Which are the 5 knowledge acquiring senses?
Eyes, ears, nose, touch and taste.
Yes. So these are the 5 knowledge acquiring senses. And then we have 5 correspondingly working senses. Which are those?
2 legs, 2 hands.
Yeah, 2 legs, 2 hands. There are 4, there are 2. So hands, legs, then mouth, and then the excretory and the reproductive organs. So those are 5 senses. So basically, the mind helps us in doing these 2 things. Okay, sir. So, that we basically take in inputs from outside and then we respond to them. Now, scientists sometimes thought we are just nothing but stimulus and response. But there is a whole universe of things that happen inside. So there is a stimulus, there is a response, the mind is involved in that. But the mind is also involved in what happens in between. So basically, so if I consider this, now this is my phone. Now you see the flashlight over here? So this light is the soul. And the beam of light coming out from it is consciousness. Atma and Chaitanya. So from the soul, consciousness is like the energy that comes out. And this energy spreads outward. And for this energy to go out towards the body and outward, the mind is the link. I think you mentioned that the soul is like, mind is like a bridge. So it is, you could say, like a bridge, or it is like a route, a medium, a pathway. So the soul is the source of consciousness. You want to play with the word, you can say the soul is the root of consciousness. The mind is the root of consciousness. The pathway through which consciousness comes out. And then it goes to the outer world. However, when the mind is supposed to be a root, it does not always work the same way. So we'll talk about, so basically what is the mind? The mind is the link. It enables information to come in, then we can evaluate it, and then we can act on it. So, now, the mind, however, is different from the brain. The brain is a part of the body. The mind is subtle. See, the brain, if you want to continue the software metaphor, the brain is like the CPU in the hardware. But the mind is the software. So, the software is subtle. We may say, okay, software is located over here in this particular drive. But it's not like if you open that particular device, you can see the software. No, it's subtle. So, the mind is subtle like that. Now, for us, the reason we need mind management is two reasons. So this is why we need mind management and how we can do mind management. So the mind is meant to be the channel through which consciousness goes out, and it helps us to function, that we can see things properly and we can respond properly. But the mind is prone to two problems. One is the mind wanders off. So the body is here, the soul is here, but the mind is somewhere else. And then what happens? Say, I am looking at you, you are looking at me. But if the mind is somewhere else, you speak something, hey, sorry, what did you say? We go absent-minded. So the mind causes distraction. Sometimes you are talking with someone and you see their eyes rolling, eyes glazing. You tap the bush, hey, where are you? Come back to earth. So one of the problems with the mind is distraction. Now when distraction happens, then the Chaitanya, the consciousness that is there, maybe a small part of it comes over here and majority of it goes over here. And that's how sometimes you will be reading a book and sometimes you will be pretending to read a book because you don't want to talk with someone. And then we are angry with that person or something like that. And he's looking at the book and that person says, "Are you reading the book?" "Of course." And then she will keep the book upside down. So what happened is, we are our mind is caught in the anger, so we don't even notice how the book is. So, the mind, one problem with it is distraction. And another problem with the mind is that even when it is present, the soul is here, the mind is here, the body is here. And say this is the outer world in which some object is present. So now when stimuli come in from the outer world, they come to the mind, and the mind can enlarge some stimuli. The mind can change the dimension of a stimuli. Say for example, if somebody is an alcoholic, they are talking with someone. Maybe they come with their boss for a conference, and while passing by, they see, okay, there are some drinks over here. And they go forward, they're talking with their boss, they're looking at their boss, but in their mind, their boss' body changes into alcohol. So what happens is that particular stimulus of alcohol, of that bottle, that becomes way too prominent. So if there is greed, then the stimulus of money becomes way too big. So like that, the second thing that the mind does is distortion. So it can make small stimuli very big and big stimuli very small. Suppose a doctor is doing some surgery on a critical patient, and say doctor is a cricket fan. And they're hearing the running commentary while the cricket match is going on, and their favorite batsman gets out, and they cut the organ they're supposed to see. So what happens is, at that time, the surgery that they're doing is to be 100 times more important. But when the mind is attached, then that which is small can become very big, or that which is very big can become very small. So the mind can do distraction and distortion. And generally speaking, when we say that somebody has some mental health issues, this is one of the things. If somebody, like we say, somebody has ADHD, they're just not able to focus. Now, like nowadays, kids are having that problem quite a bit, attention deficit. Or, if somebody's reaction to something is disproportionate. So that is what indicates something is wrong. Say for example, if somebody is behind me and they tap me on my shoulder, just gently tap me and if I scream, you say, what happened? I say, actually I have a spleen over here. Oh, you touched me twice. Oh, okay. So basically when there is a small stimulus and there is a huge response, that indicates that something is wrong over there. So like that, we give some gentle feedback to someone, and that person starts saying, who do you think you are? What happened? I was just giving a suggestion. Mind your own business, get lost. What's wrong with you? So basically, if a small stimulus leads to a huge response, that's indication that we also say, did I touch a nerve over there? So, it's triggering something inside. So because of the distraction and the distortion, things it becomes difficult for us to function. So now, why do this distraction and distortion occur? That is because the mind is not just a neutral tube or pipe. It's not a neutral passageway. The mind has its contents, and the contents inside the mind are the impressions within it. So the mind has impressions. Now these impressions themselves are not intrinsically a bad thing. Say, like one of you mentioned that it is based on memories that we are able to process. So right now I'm speaking something. Now, if you don't understand English, then you just be sitting here and just some sounds are coming and you might just watch it. This person moving his hand, these people are laughing, this person is sleeping, you just watch the show. Like sometimes when I give a class and if say I'm committed to conceptual, then I sometimes see blank faces. It's like people look as if they're watching a foreign language movie without subtitles. So basically, what happens is that what we have learned in the past, that is stored in the mind. So right now, actually what is going in is simply some sound vibrations. But those sound vibrations, they link with, only the audio data is going into your ears. Or some visual data is going into your eyes. But it is in the subtle body that it is processed. So I am currently using, we can say what I call as a minimalist model over here. See, in the software, we can talk about how there is mind, intelligence, and ego, and all those things. That just makes things a little more complicated. And it's reducing the entire subtle body at this point to the mind. And Krishna also does that in many places, in 6.5, 6.6. He says we have to elevate ourselves with our mind, we have to control our mind. He says we have to use our intelligence to control our mind. So we and our mind. So now in the mind there are impressions. And those impressions help us to make sense of things. So because say all of you are familiar with English, so what I am speaking, the audio data, is you are able to make sense of it. So the impressions in the mind are themselves not entirely bad. They are necessary for our function. At the same time, not all impressions in the mind are helpful for our function. So the impressions in the mind, in Sanskrit, they are called samskar. Samskar is, now we use the word samskar also for certain rituals which are meant to create certain healthy impressions on the mind. So, now among the samskaras, many could be positive, many could be negative. So the negative samskaras, we can say they are samskar. We all have some or the other scar within our psyche. And because of that scar, our responses either become distracted or distorted. Now we could say that when this happens, the underlying principle is that the samskars are the cause. So if somebody has been bitten by a dog in the childhood, then they see a dog, immediately the fear comes into it. Now even if that dog is a tiny cute poodle, but still that's because of the samskar. So the impressions in the mind make the mind behave in a particular way. So there could be associated with fear, it could be associated with anger, it could be associated with whatever it is. So these impressions in the mind, they shape our behavior. So the mind, if it enlarges a particular stimulus, then that completely occupies us, that completely consumes us. And then that is all we can see. So in one sense, if somebody has been bitten by a dog, that dog becomes reduced to its teeth. The dog might be sweet and beautiful, but the dog is reduced to the teeth. So this is how biases also happen. Say if we have been cheated by somebody from a particular community. Now, when we meet somebody from that community, that person may be a very respected person, maybe very intelligent, maybe very selfless also. But all those attributes get downplayed. That this person belongs to that community. That is all that is remembered. Or that is all get highlighted for us. So that's how our mind tends to function. Now, what do we need to do to deal with the mind? These two problems, distraction and distortion, are what cause the mind to malfunction. Now we can say distraction is also due to the samskaras. So if somebody is say, like as a example of cricket or alcohol, somebody has impressions associated, oh cricket is so wonderful, alcohol is so enjoyable, then that impression catches their attention. So in one sense, the mind can either, so when the mind brings in, so if we consider the mind to be like an inner screen, in some high security buildings, you may have seen that there is, in the security room, there's like a big screen on which there will be multiple windows. And then all the doors, who's coming in, who's going out, the person at the security center can see all those. You see that kind of place? Or you can visualize it, like a big screen, there are multiple windows within it. And then, as soon as they see somebody suspicious looking is coming from here, you click on it, you know, who is this person? Where is this person coming? Is there ID there? We'll see it carefully. So like that for us, say right now you are hearing, many sensory stimuli are coming in. So the sound of my voice is there. Then your eyes are seeing my hand movement, the eyes are seeing what is being drawn over there. Maybe you're sitting on the floor, maybe it's not very comfortable. The temperature might be a little hot. So somebody is moving. So now the child was moving. So all these are stimuli. Some of these stimuli get highlighted. And then that window becomes big. And the other windows become small. So we could say the mind is like a screen on which there's one window which becomes big and there are other windows which are also there which are small. Which window becomes big? That depends on two factors. One is the outer perception. Perception is what we are seeing outside. And the other is the inner impression. Both of these get combined. Sometimes we have no fear of a dog, but the dog seems to be like a mini elephant. If that happens, then we will, oh, this dog is dangerous, I have to be careful. Like a Doberman or German Shepherd or something like that. Sometimes the dog might be small, but the impression is big. So because of this, the mind tends to function in a particular way. And this can sometimes work against us. So what do we do about this? There are two things, the word abhyas and vairagya. So we are now, I talk about the second part. Why does the mind need to be managed? Because it distorts or distracts. So how do we go about managing? That is the last part of the session. So abhyas and vairagya. Now these words can be translated in different ways. We are using a particular frame of analyzing over here. So I will use two words here. Vairagya is distance and abhyas is diligence. So vairagya means what? We need to be able to create a distance between us and our mind internally. And if we can distance ourselves from our mind, then we can evaluate it. If it's too close to us, then whatever it says, we start feeling that the mind's desire is our desire. The mind's feeling is our feeling. So we want to create some distance between us. And then, okay, this is what is happening. And I can decide what I want to do. And so distance helps us to better understand the mind. So distance helps us to understand the mind. And diligence, basically we have certain samskars in the mind, certain impressions are there. Diligence enables us to change the mind. Diligence is for changing the samskaras that are inside the mind. So, what we would like to do is, this is the mind that I have right now. How can I best use it, engage with it right now? And the second is, I would like to change my mind so that it becomes better. So how do I go about doing that? So we'll talk about this Vairagya and Abhyas. And we'll talk about this in two distinct steps, two distinct parts. And for each of these, I'm not going to scream. So, for bringing about this distance in the mind, between so the soul is here, the what we would like to do is the soul is here and the mind is here. We like to increase the distance so that we can evaluate. And in general, say for this purpose, there are many different metaphors which are used to understand the mind so that we can deal with it. Now, one common metaphor is the Bhagavad Gita uses is of a war. The mind is like what in the war? What is the mind like? Like a? Okay. Now, in the war metaphor Bhagavad Gita uses, the mind is like what? Your imagination is overactive or mine is inactive. In a war, whom are you fighting with? Enemy. The mind is like what? Enemy. That's what Krishna says, isn't it? So the mind is like an enemy. But interestingly, say if we had an enemy, then somebody just want to kill the enemy. Right now there's a war going on between say Israel and the Arab forces, mainly the Shia forces. So Israel just killed one of the Nasrallah, big terrorist leader from Hezbollah. So if you have an enemy, just kill the enemy. But does the mind, Krishna say, kill the mind? What does he say? What do you want to do? Make it a friend. So the point I am making is, because the mind is so subtle and complex, no one metaphor can fully explain the mind. So different metaphors can be used to explain different aspects of the mind. So yes, now we could say the mind is our enemy, but that is inaccurate. The mind is like our enemy because there is something inside the mind which is our enemy. The mind is intrinsically not our enemy. The impressions within the mind make it act like an enemy. Like say, India had a huge law and order problem in Kashmir. I have a friend in Kashmir, so I can talk with him about the situation there. Now, does India want to destroy Kashmir? No. Do you want to bomb Kashmir and destroy everyone over there? No, we don't want to do that. No, those are our people. But some of them may be infiltrators from outside, some of them may be so radicalized that you just have to neutralize them. But we don't want to destroy everyone over there. So the way the Indian government brought about some law and order over there is that we segregate it. These are the insurgent elements, they have to be liquidated. And then others have to be won over. And others have to be brought over to the side of India by showing them that India is actually a well-wisher. India wants your children to grow up, go to school, have jobs, and have a good life. So basically, in our mind, similarly, if we consider the mind to be like this disputed territory of Kashmir, there are elements in the mind which have to be eliminated. There are impressions which have to be removed. But there are also impressions which are good. So right now we are studying the Bhagavad Gita. So it is in your mind that the impressions of, say, the English language, impressions about some previous knowledge of spirituality that you have, some knowledge of psychology that you have. So by which you will understand this. What we are discussing right now. So the mind is not like a normal enemy which you just want to kill. Because we need the mind for functioning. The mind is like our essential tool between the soul and the body. That's why using only the enemy metaphor is very restrictive. Because what happens is, if we treat the mind only as the enemy, if our approach to our inner world, if we are just constantly, we try to have total control, then the result of that will be suffocation. How long can I keep doing it? No, okay, I have the desire to eat this food, I have the desire to watch this, I have the desire to wear this clothes. No, it's all the mind, no. We feel suffocated by it completely. So one of the metaphors that I find best to understand is like we and our mind is like a child and we are meant to be the parent. Now a parent needs to discipline the child. But if all the parent is doing is discipline the child gets suffocated. On the other hand, if there is no discipline, there is total surrender. So whatever the mind says, okay, you want to eat this, you want to sleep now, you want to watch TV, do this, do that. So then what will happen is stagnation. If we don't discipline our children at all, our children will never grow up. Now how many children will really want to study on their own, do something constructive? Now in our case it may not just be stagnation, it may also be degradation. We will become worse. So what we want is that when we are dealing with our mind, a healthy balance of both. So a healthy balance where the negative impressions, they are restrained. And there are positive impressions within us. The positive impressions need to be developed, directed. So, like that, when we are dealing with our mind, now this will be an entirely different subject, but I'll just mention it right now. Among the samskaras, the negative impressions are sometimes called as vasanas. And the positive impressions, they are sometimes called as vrittis. So, for example, somebody is a Brahman, somebody is a Kshatriya. This is not just by birth designation. It is the person has a particular natural interest. So the vritti needs to be developed. When Draupadi's hand was won in the Swayamvar by Arjuna and his guards, at that time the people wanted to know who is actually married by a daughter. So they were dressed like Brahmanas, and they had been sitting in the ranks of the Brahmanas. But by their physique and their carriage, they seemed more like Kshatriyas. So he brought them, he invited them to his house, to his palace, for a feast. And he brought them into a long room. And he asked them to stay. He said, I'll just get some food. And he went out. And then the Pandavas sat down. It is a long room like this. And then on the other side, there's a long table. And on that table, on the left side, he had kept some scripture and some paraphernalia for doing yajna, a sacrificial spoon, and some sacred word. Then nearby, he had kept some bow and arrow and sword and spear. Then next to that, he had kept a plow and farming equipment. And then in the other corner, he had kept some artisan's equipment, some painting brushes and some potter's craftsmen, potter's tools. So he, from a small hidden window, was looking. So the Pandavas sat down, looked around the room, and then they saw the table on the other side. All 5 Pandavas, like one, went. Where did they go? To the weapons. And then Arjuna started picking up a bow and feeling it and touching it, and he said, hey, this bow is just like that. And Bhima picked up a mace and started swinging it around. Yudhishthira picked up a spear, and they all started talking, remembering this weapon and that battle. And look at that distributor smiling. These are Kshatriyas. So, the idea is that according to our vrittis, we all have some natural interests. Like our children also, some children may have musical talent. They just pick up a kartal and they start playing it, and it's just wonderful. Sometimes you have these on YouTube, this Got Talent, India has got talent, Britain has got talent. But like 4 shows are there, 4 5-year-old kids, they just play music so wonderfully. And somebody may be 25 and they pick up a kartal and just can't get a sense of it. And they say it's so hard. Let's say it's so hard to hear. So the idea is we all have certain innate vrittis, and these are not to be crushed. They need to be developed. So in one sense, how do we know the presence of the samskaras? Basically, I said the samskaras are seen by where a small stimulus leads to a large response. So wherever there is a small stimulus and a large response. So that refers that there is some impression inside us. As I said, the impression can be positive, the impression can be negative. Another way to understand this is, like, we note what we notice. We take note consciously, we note consciously what we notice automatically. Whatever somebody has, say, interior decoration ability, they come to a house, as soon as everybody will look at the aesthetics of the house. But somebody has interior decoration ability, they say, okay, actually if you move the sofa here, you move this painting here, and it will look so much better. And somebody will say, stay 6 months in the house, they cannot think of it. And this was in 6 minutes, they come to it. So, for me, I love words. So wherever I see, the whole world is filled with words for me. Like somebody gives me a big magazine, first my eyes go to the caption and then I sometimes notice the picture. There are times when I've read an entire 300-page book and I didn't even once see the cover picture of the book. So it's, you could say, I miss out on the visuals. But the point is, we all have certain natural interests. So that is our bhakti. And this is also an impression stored in the mind. But this is not an unhealthy thing. So now, when we are talking here about the vasanas, before we can move forward, we need to understand our mind. So, if we are very attached to something, that means the stimulus comes up and immediately we are pushed towards a response without even thinking about it. So, if somebody sees a dog, without even thinking, I just want to move away from it. So, like that, what we need to do is, the more we can create a distance between ourselves and our mind, then we can observe. Okay. So, going back to the computer screen, so the child metaphor I was explaining, that we don't want to just control the mind to dominate the mind. There are parts of the mind which need to be developed. After all, it is not that the soul is a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya. The soul is spiritual. Now, ham vipro na narpati na api vaishyo na shudra. Mahaprabhu says. So it is in the subtle bodies that these impressions are there. Now, when we want to create a distance between us and our mind. So how do we do that? I will use an acronym, PAD. P-A-D. So, say if there are 2 parts in a machine, they are rubbing against each other. and that's creating friction and noise. Then put some pad in between so that doesn't lead to the immediate the friction decrease. So like that, you want to put a pad. So if I am here, my mind is here, then we want to put a pad between these two. So pad is basically whenever some urge comes up with us. So first is pause. Just make it a pause. Instead of acting immediately, just pause. So we may pause by taking a few deep breaths. Say, suppose we have some issues with someone. Some people they bring out the best within us, and some people bring out the worst within us. I was trying to once do a mediation between two people, and the first person said, I can see that you're very angry with me. Can you tell me what have I done that makes you so angry? The second person said, you exist. Now, the second person is not actually saying that in either a joking way or a ridiculous way. He said, everything about you. The way your hair is, the sound of your voice, the way you laugh, the way you walk, everything seems to rub me wrong. I just can't help myself. Wow, we can't say that in one sense. We have to restrain ourselves. But pause. Okay, this, once we understand that I am different from my mind, then, yes, that feeling may come up within me. But, pause. Let's not act. Just pause. And we do have the capacity for this. Say, if you meet someone, and say, maybe that person is talking to someone and they turn around, and maybe you find they got leprosy. Now, we will take up that. But if you are cultured, you won't show much of a shock. We will just try to keep our expression as impassive as possible. So there might be a shock internally, but we are capable of not expressing it. So that pause. So for all of us, sometimes people say that if I could just read it, if I could just understand people's minds, if I could just understand this person's thoughts, I could listen to their thoughts, I would understand them so much better. My relationship will be so much better. Actually, not true. If we could see each other's thoughts, not a single relationship would be sustained. You think like this about me? You have this kind of desires? You have this kind of feelings? What kind of person are you? I don't want to be with you. So, actually, nature has given us a natural buffer by which our thoughts are not visible to others. So, otherwise, because there are many thoughts or desires or feelings, whatever you say, come up automatically almost. They just come from the samskaras, the impressions that are there. They just pop up. Now, it is because of discipline, culture, willpower, whatever, we don't act on them. So, we have this capacity. We may have it more in some areas, we may have it less in some areas. But we all have the capacity. Now, we may say that today's world is, with respect to sexuality, very liberal. People just have premarital, extramarital relationships, whatever. But always, in every society, there are some boundaries. In the past, the boundary was marriage. In today's society, maybe that boundary is not respected so much, but still, there is the boundary of consent. And if consent is not there, then it's considered a serious crime. And most people, no matter how wild the desires may be, they do control themselves. So the point I'm making is, I'm not saying consent is necessarily a good boundary. The point I'm making is the principle of boundaries. We all have the capacity to restrain our desires. So, now in some cases it might be easier, some cases it might be tougher. But it is possible. So, pause. So, if we learn, okay, if this person, this person tends to bring the worst out of me. Then, if I'm going to meet this person, right in the beginning only, first pause. Take a few deep breaths. You realize that I don't want to act impulsively. Prepare. So then, the next is analyze. So analyze means that See, rather than I am feeling angry, what we could do is to say that my mind is feeling angry. Just analyze means, we could also use the word, we analyze means ascribe. Ascribe means we ascribe the emotion, the desire to the mind. I want to eat a gulab jamun. No. On my mind is saying, my mind wants to eat a gulab jamun. Or like my mind is a screen on which that window has popped up. It's like, let's eat a gulab jamun. It is a proposal. See, the mind, sometimes the mind can appear so strong that it feels irresistible. But the mind can only propose. It can't impose. The mind can only impel. Impel means do this. It can't compel. But it can propose very forcefully, very persuasively, and then we may not even realize, we just accept his proposal unthinkingly. Say, if we are studying for an exam and a friend comes in, come on, let's go and watch a movie. You will think, you really want to watch a movie? And we say, okay, I don't know, I have to study right now, I'll do it, let's watch some other day. But when that same idea comes from inside, let's go and watch a movie, yeah, let's go. So what happens is, if we can learn to treat the mind as another person, that the mind is inside me, but it is something different from me. Then we evaluate its proposals based on merit. Not that we always say yes, not that we always say no. Krishna says, Udasina vad asinam. He says, be situated like detached and observe. So, there are these two words in English. There is uninterested and disinterested. So, are these two the same? Is there a difference? Or are you not interested? So, any thoughts?
Uninterested means really uninterested, but disinterested means
Artificially interested?
No, it's dependent on the situations, the mind, restraining ourselves and making it disinterested.
Interesting explanation. Yes?
So uninterested means for knowing something, we say, no, we don't want to know, we're not interested. Disinterested is after knowing something about something, still we are not interested.
Okay, more interesting explanation. Okay, I'll give you an idea. Yes?
So uninterested is something like you are not interested in the topic itself, but disinterested you are interested, but since you don't understand it, so you get disinterested.
Okay, maybe a lot of interesting explanations. Okay. Yeah, see, they're very similar words, but disinterested, that is associated with the word vested interest. Like, if we want to be somebody to be an arbiter, there should be a disinterested third party. So uninterested is basically, it is uninvolved. Basically, it is no interest at all. So no interest at all. Whereas disinterested means impartial. So no vested interest. So I don't really, if this party is right, this party is right. I don't want this party to be right or that party. Whichever party is right, I will evaluate based on merit. So like in a cricket match, there's an umpire. Should the umpire be uninterested or disinterested? Disinterested. If the baller bowls and the ball goes and hits the batsman back, and the fielder and the bowler appeal. How's that? And the umpire said, I was not watching the ball. Oh, that's your job. But the umpire should be evaluating based on the merit of the ball. Not because of some personal bias and not even because of the volume of the ball. So, the merit of the ball. So, like that, we need to become like an inner umpire. We are udasin. When Krishna said udasin, we can't not care for our mind. Because the mind is like our child. We can't not care for our child. Say, if our child comes here, we take our child to a park and we're sitting and talking, a child is playing with someone. A child comes running. Mom, Dad, come and beat that kid. We are not immediately going to get up and go and start beating them. But we also don't want to shut up. What really happened? Isn't it? So, it is the first step is, like I said, here parents pause. A kid may be very upset. Come on, go and beat me. What happened to me? No, go and beat me. Just do it. And then analyze. You may decide that, okay, I heard your side of the story. Now let me go and talk with the kid's parents. Okay? Generally what happens is whenever there is a story, there is one side of the story, and there is the other side of the story. And then there is the story. The story is always bigger and different from even the two sides. So, but the idea is we pause and say, our kid is telling us, come on, do this. Okay, wait, let's, what happened to you? Then analyze. And then after that, we decide. Okay, this is what I need. So now we say this all seems very theoretical, very complicated. But we can start it slowly. So whenever some anger comes up, you feel like yelling at someone. Okay, pause. Let me take a 5 deep breaths. So, or let me decide that sometimes before I came to Bhakti, I used to get quite angry. Now also that anger comes in. I was never physically aggressive. But what happened is, I had a bad temper and a good vocabulary. A terrible combination. So, some people when they get angry, they just become incoherent. They can't speak anything. Or some people just scream but they're not coherent. Some people when they get angry, they can become so sarcastic and biting. They're cutting that people remember what they spoke in anger for years together. So, even now sometimes if I feel angry, I travel across the world 9 months a year outside India. So most of my services I do online. So if somebody has done something which really makes me angry, then at that time what I decide is, I may just write down an angry email or I may record an angry message. But I will not send it for 24 hours. That pause. And just at that time, what happens is the anger is inside me. If I express it outside, anger is like, why I'm talking this PAD? Pause, analyze, decide. So if you don't pause, if I express the anger, what happens? Others burn. My words will cause others to burn. But if I repress the anger, then I burn. Because the anger is there inside me. So what I want to do instead is process the anger. So pause. Cannot send it right. Then after 24 hours, then I may rehear the message or reread the email. Then this is a bit too harsh. Maybe this word like this often. Maybe here I'm jumping to conclusions. Maybe I can find out more about it. And then maybe you ask a third party or whatever. And then we decide. So if you start it small steps, with one area you can start it, where it is doable for us. In some cases, the minds also become so fast that you will not be able to do anything. But in some area you can start. Pause, analyze, decide. So this is more of the analytical approach to deal with, to create a distance between us and the mind. So the second part was, this is Vairagya. What is the other part? Abhyas. So Abhyas is diligence. Diligence means we want to change the impressions within the mind. So the mind is like a program, or like the mind is like a programmed machine. Fortunately for us, it is a programmed machine, but it is also a programmable machine. And the key to reprogramming it is action. It is repeated action. Say, have any of you heard of this small thing in Mumbai? So, suppose somebody has visited a website called Bollywood.com and maybe they visit 50 times and they come to a spiritual talk like this and they hear about the Bhagavad Gita and they want to learn about the Bhagavad Gita. So they open their device and they type B for Bhagavad Gita. What happens? Bollywood comes as an autocomplete. Now, why did it come? It's stored in the browser history. So you could say our browser history is like our mind samskaras. So every choice that we have done in the past, that is stored in our mind. Now if somebody wants to go to bhagavad.com, what they have to do is type the full thing. bhagavadgita.com. It's 12 letters. And typing 12 letters can seem like climbing Mount Everest. You know? Just type here and enter. You go. No, it takes effort. But if you do it, say suppose somebody goes to bhagavad.com 5 times, 10 times, then what happens? Then next time they type B, maybe if they want to follow it 50 times before, then that will still come as the first autocomplete, but this will come at least the second autocomplete. So the way to change the browser history is, we can say we can delete the browser history. There's no such feature for our mind. We can't delete the browser history, we can't format the mind, we can't create a new mind. So those options are not there for us. But what we need to do is repeatedly visit bhagavad.com. If somebody visits 25 times bhagavad.com and they visited 50 times earlier volume, so then because these are the recent visits, then automatically this will become the first autocomplete. So for us, if somebody has anger issues and they want to avoid the anger issues, so the samskar is there. Whenever somebody doesn't listen to me, I won't yell at them. But if they make it a habit, let me take a few deep breaths. Let me chant a few Hare Krishna mantras. So we chant the Hare Krishna mantra a few times. Do it once, do it twice, thrice. And if you just keep doing it regularly, that will create an impression. After that, whenever someone provokes us, rather than getting angry, rather than giving into the anger, expressing it, the default response will be, let's take a deep breath, let's chant. Let's try to seek some inner guidance. How I should act. So the key here, abhyasa means practice. Practice for what? Repetition. So repetition is the key. The more we repeat an activity, the more the impressions are created. And so the key over here is 3 things. FIT. So how to make our mind fit. So we put a pad, while the mind is unfit, we put a pad between us and the mind. But now we want to make our mind fit, we want to change our mind. So what will change the impressions of the mind? First is the frequency. Just like how often do you visit bhagavad.com? So if we do an activity frequently, that creates impressions. So some people say, why do you chant the Hare Krishna mantra so many times? Just chant once with bhav. Yes, that is true, but the problem is bhav ka abhav hai. So by that repetition, fresh impressions are being created. Now, frequency is important. Now another thing is time duration. How long we do something. Say for example, once a week you come for satsang like this. It will create some impressions in the mind. But say once a year you decide for 1 week we'll go for a yatra. We'll go to Vrindavan. Then what has happened is, it's not just for 2-3 hours in a busy week with 100 other things. It's 1 full week of immersion. That will create much deeper impressions. So how often we do something and how long we do something. So that will create new impressions within us. And as I said earlier, that there are no metaphor fully captures the mind. So a browser doesn't care after I open a tab with how much eagerness I am watching that tab. I was reading what is in the tab. It will just check how long the tab was open, how often the tab was open. But with respect to our mind, it is our intensity. How much are we emotionally engaged in that activity? If, say, we are chanting Hare Krishna, but our mouth is chanting Hare Krishna and our mind has gone on a wander of the journey of the whole universe, then the mind is not there. If the mind is not there, then hardly any impressions will be created. So, this brings us to the last one I'll talk about is rituals. The word ritual sometimes has a negative connotation. Like, oh, don't be ritualistic, it's just a ritual. However, rituals are basically time-tested ways or time-tested methods that tap the power of repetition. Even now, the word ritual is acquiring a positive connotation. You look at some self-help books on Amazon, you say the 3 morning rituals of a CEO, or some big successful person, my 5 morning rituals. And rituals means regular practices. So those which we repeat. But I'm talking about this intensity. So there is a difference. When there are many repeated activities, there could be repetition in rituals and there could be repetition in routines. Now routines means that which we have to do every day. Say every day we may have to do our dishes, we may have to do our laundry. Now it is not that while doing our dishes or laundry we have to pay 100% attention to it. That's not required. So if we are brushing our teeth, that's just a routine we have to do. In routine, the point is get the thing done. You want to do it efficiently, but the routines does not require much attention. But rituals are exactly the opposite. The point of the rituals is not to get the thing done, it is to get the experience of doing the thing. So for example, if somebody says, if you get angry, take 3 deep breaths. Then that is Kapalbhati. So the point is not to get the 3 breaths. Slow your thoughts down, slow your breath down, focus. And so it's the point of deep breathing is to get the experience of deep breathing so that our mind slows down. Similarly, the point of chanting mantras is not just to get the thing done. It is to get the experience. Like if you're doing a arti, as a one cartoon, that is parallel processing. So it was one person doing arti with one hand and looking at the phone with the other hand. What is the point of doing arti? The point of arti is to connect with the Lord, to offer that emotion to the Lord. But the point of it is not just to get the thing done, it is to get the experience of doing it. So that is what brings intensity. So if we can have, if we do something frequently, if we do it with intensity, if we do it for a substantial amount of time, we find that the impressions in the mind can be changed. And as the impressions are changed, then the weaker impressions will go down, the unhealthy impressions will go down, the healthier impressions will become stronger. And that's how our mind will change from being our enemy to being our friend. From working against us to working with us and working for us. For us, many times right now, like we are here, we want to go in a particular direction and our mind is here and our mind wants to go in the opposite direction. And say because of that, say this is our 100% effort, the mind is 70% in the opposite direction. So what we are able to actually do maybe 30%, maybe 3% of it. But when our mind becomes our friend, when our mind becomes transformed, what we want to do, the mind also wants to do that. This is 100%, this is 100%. So we will find that this is the state of being empowered. In the same time, we'll be able to do so much more. In modern psychologists talk about something like a flow state or a peak performance state. We all, even in our conditioned state, experience it sometimes. When we're doing something, we're completely immersed in it. There's no distraction at all. That time, what we are able to do is amazing. So that state is something which we can all get to more and more frequently and stay there more and more consistently. And then our whole life will be transformed by it. So this is how the mind can become our friend and work with us and for us instead of against us. So I'll summarize what I discussed. Our topic today was mind management. We talked about 3 things. What is the mind? So we discussed the mind is like the software link between the body and the soul. And the mind is meant to be a transmitter of consciousness, and it is also meant to be a transformer of consciousness. This audio data comes in, but it makes sense to us because the mind integrates in presence with the soul. Why do we need mind management? Because the mind goes wrong in two ways. It gets us to distraction and distortion. And it does this because of the samskaras within it, because of the impressions within it. Some of the samskaras are positive, which we want to develop, it's the vritti, and then there are negative, which are the vasanas. So those we want to restrict. So basically the way we know the samskara is the small stimulus, huge response. So that's how we can know what samskaras we have. And how do we go about managing our mind? First was vairagya. Vairagya means distance. So for us, we can, for each of these I took a metaphor. I took the mind is like a child. So we want to create a distance between us and our mind through PAD. P was pause, then analyze, and then decide. So pause, our child may be very angry about something, so it's my child who is angry. I am not. So let me try to understand. Pause, analyze, and decide. So here we become like an inner umpire when we are analyzing. It's not that we are uninterested, but we are disinterested. And then abhyasa was what? Diligence. Diligence means doing something again and again, carefully. So this is for changing the mind. So this is why okay, we manage the mind while it is. This is the way the mind is, this is how I can function with it. But changing the mind, what are three things for that? Fit economy. So F is frequency. We try to do the healthy activity, the kind of impression you want to create. Here I use the example of a browser. So how do I change the browser history? Go again and again to that do that site again and again. You go it for a longer time, and in between was intensity. Intensity is I try to do it not just to get the thing done, but to get the experience. This is the power of rituals, is that it enables us to do something repeatedly so that new impressions are created in our mind. And that's how our mind will become our friend instead of being our enemy. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
We have a couple of minutes for any questions, comments, reflections. Anybody?
Yes. Wonderful class, bro. A question when we talked about routines and rituals. So the question I had was when you practice your on a daily basis, like and you repeat it, like deity worship or chanting. We see that over time the rituals lose intensity slowly and steadily. So how do we maintain that intensity?
Two ways, buddhi and bhakti. Buddhi means we need to use our intelligence to remind ourselves why this is important. Say, if we hear a good class about the holy name, about chanting, then after that, we will be motivated to chant better. It's buddhi. And bhakti is, see, sometimes we do an activity and that activity triggers bhakti within us. Say, we hear some nice kirtan, nice bhajan about the Lord, and that evokes bhakti within us. But in some activities, we have to evoke bhakti and bring that bhakti into that activity. Like we say, chanting, if we don't feel that raising bhakti within us, then maybe have some attractive picture of Krishna in front of you, some picture of your favorite deities, or maybe a spiritual master, or try to have a picture of some pastime just touched our heart, or maybe hear some song for a few minutes which triggers devotion in us. So we have to bring bhakti into it. So buddhi and bhakti is the way to make sure that they don't become mechanical.
Hare Vishnu Guru. It's a very nice class.
I have one question. So you said that the mind is part of ourself, right? And soul is the user. And we have also said the mind is basically the enemy. Right? So my question is, why is mind is enemy to start with? It could have been friend as well, right?
See, it depends on the kind of impressions that we have. This is not our first lifetime. So we have lived before, and there are impressions within our mind from the past. So it's because of the past impressions that the mind is the way it is. And not always the end. We all have something what we call as a sixth sense or gut feeling, where we just innately do something right. So the vrittis in the mind, they are what we can call as our talents or gifts or our innate sense. So the mind is a combination of good and bad. Right? But unfortunately, in today's world, I didn't get to time out talk about that particular the guided missiles, misguided men, that is subtitle of talk. What happens is, in today's world, the stimuli from the outside are mostly those which trigger the vasanas within us. And that's why the negative part of the mind becomes far more activated than the positive part. We all may have some talents, but if we compare ourselves with the whole world, and even if whatever talents we have, we feel it's not so big deal. What difference I want to make? We can always find somebody who's better than us. In the past, if somebody was in a small village, small town, small city, the talent is shining. But now the whole world is like our comparison ground. And then we try to devalue our talents. And then there is something which is triggering our lust, there's something which is triggering our insecurity, there's something which is triggering our anger. Actually, human mind is not designed like this. To hear bad news from all over the world. This happened over there, and that happened over there, that happened over there. So that's how the mind primarily acts as an enemy. But it is a combination of good and bad.
So basically, whole presentation is like, we have power to change mind, the soul. But there is another function like super soul also, which may have some function, or guru, or a psychologist for a second. Like, if someone is not spiritual, the psychologist have a power to change the mind. Because here the onus is everything on the soul, particular soul, which you are saying like bad and fate, which should be done by only soul, particular soul. So what are the function of super soul and other aspect which should control?
Yeah, so now this bad and fate is something which we have to do, but others can help us. Say for example, if we pray to Krishna regularly, Krishna, I don't want to get angry. Please help me to manage my temper. Then it's like this, that microsecond of that pause. Something within us, let us go yell at this person. But something else is. So ultimately, God helps those who help themselves. But we also need to know how to help ourselves. Okay? So I was giving a broad pattern of the methods that we can use to manage our mind. But Krishna can involve us. Now, Krishna can help us to pause, Krishna can better help us analyze. Similarly, for changing the impressions within us. If we are very earnest, then if we are very sincere in our practice of bhakti, Krishna can change the impressions faster. And the spirit economy can apply for anything at one level. Like I can use a materially bad habit and replace it with a materially good habit. But if we try to develop a devotional habit, then Krishna can actually do the cleansing much faster. So the impressions can also be changed much faster. So these principles remain the same, but bhakti can help us to implement them much faster, much better. And as far as, say, a guide, a psychologist, or they're not exactly the same, but the principle of other people helping us to manage our mind. It is that generally, if I am here, my mind is here, and everyone else is here. So I evaluate everyone through my mind. So if somebody is very sweet and nice to me, Immediately my mind says, what does this person want from me? Now that person may not really want anything, that person is just by nature kind. But we tend to evaluate everyone through our mind. But if we have somebody who is very close to us, somebody who is trustworthy, then what happens is, my mind is here and this person is here. So this is a trustworthy friend, guide. So basically what happens by this, mostly, so normally speaking, I would evaluate this person through my mind. But in this case, I will evaluate my mind through this person. Okay. My mind is saying, no, that person is trying to punish that person. This person is saying, maybe you misunderstand. Maybe you have to evaluate and understand what actually is. So, if we have even one person like that, who is at least as close to us as our mind is, or closer than, it's a great blessing. So, in general, loneliness is associated with increased mental health problems. Because when there is loneliness, see, it's not that lonely people are all alone. Most loneliness is in the cities. People are crowded together. But the point is, when you say lonely, the mind is telling a particular story to the person. The mind is giving a particular narrative. And there is no one to give an alternative. Or nobody you trust enough to consider what they are saying as an alternative. But if we have some close friend, then my mind is saying, okay, I went there and nobody even greeted me. And mind is saying, see, nobody cares for you, nobody loves you, nobody respects you. What is the point of you even existing? Whether you live or die, nobody will know. Better you end your life. That is the narrative the mind is. And there is one person, maybe that person was busy, maybe they didn't know you, maybe they had some other thing going on there. Some alternative is needed. So yes, close relationships are generally correlated with better mental health. Now, of course, to have close relationship is not so easy also. But if we can somehow develop a close relationship, then that is very helpful for us to better process our mind.
Continuing, this soul is there, the trustworthy friend, but the super soul is it inside near the soul or how?
Okay. So, you could put it another way. The soul is here, the mind is here, the body is here, and then the sense objects are here. It's almost like a pull of gravity. The soul gets pulled down by the sense objects. Now, above this is the super soul. Is Krishna present within us? Now, to the extent we can hold on to the super soul, to that extent we will not be pulled down. So, the super soul is there within us, and Jiva Goswami says that if we have bhakti, or he uses the word priti specifically, priti can naturally protect us from the world's mind. But till priti is developed, we need buddhi. We have to constantly use our buddhi. Buddhi is our intelligence to recognize that this is short-sighted, this is self-destructive, and stay away from it.
Hare Krishna. It is my great fortune to be able to offer a vote of thanks to Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. I have been exceedingly fortunate because for more than 20 years I have known Prabhuji personally. I have had the great fortune of serving him. We come to Krishna consciousness with several motives, right? Several purposes. For me, one of them was to be able to understand and gain control over my mind, being able to manage my mind. When I met Chaitanya Charan Prabhu for the first time, that was more than 20 years ago, the first thing that struck me was his extremely sensitive nature. He's brilliant. He writes beautiful articles. But when I first interacted with him, I saw that he's such a gentle person, such a caring person. And over the years, as I got an opportunity to serve him in small ways, in various small ways, I could see the brilliance, the sensitivity of this great soul. And so today we saw this highly complex topic of mind. Mind can be a highly complex topic, but how? By using analogies, Prabhuji has made it so easy to understand. Prabhuji has made naturally the mind gravitates to something, right? On the screen you saw, right? something becomes more important. Prabhuji has made this extremely complex topic very easy to understand. Prabhuji has been writing his Gita articles for almost more than 2 decades.
And after the movie is over, no one wants the credits to go on for too long.
The essence of some of the best articles that Prabhuji has written, they are available in the form of his books. So what I would highly urge you is to please take a look at these books written by Prabhuji, and I would highly encourage you to even subscribe to his YouTube channel. He gives very enlightening classes. Prabhuji, we have been very fortunate to be able to get his association. We are very fortunate to do that. Let us thank Prabhuji for giving us such special association and such wonderful insights into the working of the mind. Let us thank him by chanting once the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare. It is a sincere prayer and appeal, Prabhu, that you please give us your association more often. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhuji talked about so beautiful principles. Like one of the principles that he talked about is FIT, F-I-T. You know, how we can increase the frequency of doing the right thing, how we can increase the intensity, how we can increase the time duration. Prabhuji talked about Yatra, and we are so happy to share that with the blessings of Lord Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra, and Srila Prabhupada. We are planning for a one-day yatra for all the participants of the center. Hari Bol! And it is on the most auspicious day of Kartik Purnima. Okay? And we are going to a very beautiful place. It is close to the nature, inside the Murugamandi forest, the Chintamani area. It's a nice Venkateswara Balaji temple, there's a Mukteswara temple. So we have already shared you the details. I would request you, please register for it as soon as possible so that we can work on the logistics. Yes, and most importantly, yes, it's not about doing one day or just coming once in a week. As Prabhuji said, how we can increase our frequency and time duration and connect directly to the Super Soul through the chanting of the holy name and the reading books. And we have already requested, yes, please do read Bhagavad Gita and complement it with GitaDaily.com. Life will never be the same. Please take it seriously. This is our humble request. Please read these beautiful articles that Prabhuji has written, right? And Prabhuji has been really extending himself with so beautifully analogy, so beautiful insights, right? That's why he says, relish Bhagavad Gita. He always says, right? It's a relish Bhagavad Gita, and actually, I brought my personal copies as well, right? So that I always love Prabhuji's books. I always carry wherever I go. So it's not that I have so many books of Prabhuji that I have read, that I love Prabhuji's books. And Prabhuji has written a book on mind also, right? And Prabhuji has written a book on energy, how to kind of bring spiritual energy. And Prabhuji has written so many books actually. And so many articles are there, you can buy. We have just limited copies here. Of course, Prabhuji will be available for some time. You can, speak to Prabhuji. And
two things. So if somebody wants more books, you can just give their names and you can order books and they come in a week or so. I'll just tell about the books. So these two books are for studying the Bhagavad Gita. One is Relishing Bhagavad Gita. Sometimes you notice it's a very philosophical book. So there are 100 articles which focus on the relational aspect of the Bhagavad Gita. How Gita is not just philosophy, it is actually Krishna's love for Arjuna, and by extension, divinity's love for humanity. If you want to develop your personal relationship with Gita, so study of the Gita, that book Relishing Bhagavad Gita is very helpful. That follows the mode of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary on the Gita. The other book is Bhagavad Gita Insights, which is, can you show that book? Bhagavad Gita Insights. So that is basically follows the mode of Baldev Devashi's commentary. Both of these have 100 articles with some simple diagrams that I was drawing. key verses. So, some typical questions that might come in our rational mind. If God controls everything, we really have to do. If we are not the doers, then why are we held responsible for our actions? If Krishna is equal to all, then why is he choosing one side of the wall? Is the Gita book that calls for violence? So is it a violent book? So questions like these are answered in this book. So each article is basically an answer to a question. So the second is more from an analytical perspective, that's inside. The first is more from a relational perspective. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Yes, we can take Prabhuji's assessment every day by reading these books and also going through his beautiful YouTube videos and also shorts. Yes. So, we'd really like to thank once again Prabhuji by loudly chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram. So we'll have just a couple of minutes of kirtan, and after that we'll have time for Prabhuji. If somebody would like to meet, and you can take the autograph of some books. There's limited books available. They can also take it. Or otherwise, as Prabhuji said, we'll get the books here. So please names, and we'll try to order it, and then we can register it for you. Okay. Thank you very much. So Prabhuji, you can help it. Yes, getting absorbed ourselves in the holy names of that.